good morning, and welcome to another Eco Insider TV. If you see me looking up here, I'm looking at Instagram. Down here, I'm looking at YouTube. Whether you've been thrown into planning or have been planning events your entire life, you can always count on unexpected challenges. Events, no matter how well you script them, they're unruly like little 2 year olds. Something is going to be off on some element. And so this show is going to give you some tips and scenarios that you can keep in your toolkit. So should something happen, you'll be able to whip it out and swoop in and save the day. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners, curators of eco-focused events. I support clients who are steeped in all things sustainability. It's in their home life, it's in their business, and it's in their events. I also support clients who have no idea about a sustainable event, how to be sustainable in their life or even in their business. What I do is I show them little ways, little eco-focused steps that they can take, and I hold their hands through the process. And then over time, when compounded, it make a big positive impact on the environment and their bank account. So what is sustainability? It is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I like to term it as God is expansive. God created us. And by virtue that we're from God, we're also expansive. So we want to do all the things. We want to party in Ibiza, travel to Dubai, create a business, invent something, design something, create art, all the things. We do get to do so, but with the idea of using the resources intentionally, not kind of riding it until the wheels fall off, but use just what we need. Because right now we already use way too much. So we just use what we need so that our kids, well, first of all, so that we could have resources for the rest of our lives. Our kids can have resources, our kids, and people 10 generations deep. Yes, God is expansive and is always creating things, but He also calls us to be good stewards of whatever gifts we have. And wasting is just not the way to go. Even if you think scarcity is a lie, but wastefulness is not a positive impact on resources. Anyway, so let's go with intentional use of the resources. All right. So there are three pillars to sustainability. The first one is the environment. We reduce the use of what we're already using, reuse what we have, and then we recycle. I like to squeeze in a fourth in the first category, and I call it upcycling. And I always give the example of this HGTV show called Flea Market Flip, where it's a competition between friends, cousins, husband and wife, just college mates, all the things, just competition. And they kind of gamify the process of transforming trash into treasure. And so they would take like old wagon wheels and make coffee tables and old filing cabinets and make beautifully designed bookshelves and so on and so forth. There's even a new show that I discovered. I think it's on Freevee or Prime, one of those. It's called Container Masters. And they start off the show saying that there's about 140 million containers in the world, and a good portion of them are just not being used. They're big, bulky. They're used to transport goods from maybe state to state, if it's like a lot, or country to country on ships. And it's just a lot of heavy metal just sitting there. So this company converts them into tiny homes. And they're so creative. The ideas that they come up with, the layout, and the things that the homes can do is just wonderful to watch. And it's preventing the containers from just sitting there, and I think they're even too big to go in landfill. I don't know what you can do with them. And I think tiny homes is a good way to use them. Second is the economics. If it's sustainable and eco-focused, it also gets to make you money or save money. So if you're deciding to your washer broke, just don't buy a conventional one. Buy one that's energy saving. Same thing for all your appliances. If you want to save money on your electric bill, get rid of all the fluorescent lights and get LED lights. And yes, it does cost initially to kind of, hey, Brianna, it does cost initially to buy the LED lights or get the energy saving equipment, but over time, you'll notice a savings in your energy bill. All right, so definitely if it saves you, it saves the planet, it should make you money as well. Social responsibility, that's number 3. We get to love our neighbors as ourselves and create spaces for people to be who they are. So if like me, I in my spirit animal, my spirit animal, I think is either a butterfly or a fairy because I just feel so alive when I'm in the garden. And as such, the city and the county and all the governments create parks for people like me who just love to be in nature and feel like being in nature is like a hug. There's people who love the beach, so the city makes sure the beach is clean, trash is removed, and we should do that too. We also create spaces for people's mental wellness. That's a big part of social responsibility. No bullying policy, racism's got to go. You know, all the things that create a positive mental wellness. And a mentally well person shows up big and bright in the world like light. And we want to make sure that that's around us. And as people, we get to create spaces for each other and for ourselves to show up in our highest and best self. And that's a part of social responsibility. All right. So, with that said, today we are unpacking understaffing. Ooh, that's a big one. It is one of the more noticeable expenses on an event budget because you need people to execute the things, the little details that make your event special. Good morning. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your username, but I think it's Paybe Tableware. Good morning. Welcome. So yes, understaffing. That's what we're talking about today. That's one of the biggest event planning mistakes is to ignore the need for proper staffing. And not only that, but treating your staff well. So we're going to unpack that part later on. Staffing for an event can look like setup staff. Well, first of all, it looks like the event planner. Yes, because you need me to create the plan and all the things. And so I'm a part of the event staff. Event decorator. They could be a vendor as well, but they're also kind of like staff if you take it under consideration that they're there doing the work. Setup, service staff, breakdown, cleanup, all these essential people help to make your event wonderful. And I guess you could consider the vendors kind of like on the team of staff because they all add their part to make your event wonderful. From the AV people, the flooring people, the event furniture, they all come to put it together. But the key people we're going to focus on are the people working the actual event. Setup staff, service staff, breakdown, and cleanup. Those are like the core people that I'm going to talk about right now. Understaffing is a serious problem for events, and it often doesn't become obvious until the day of the event when it's too late to do anything. So prevention is definitely the key. A recent case study by an HR company found that the best way to determine optimum staffing levels for any organization, or in this case, event, is to, and I'm going to share their 3 tips right here. Tip number 1, get detailed information from the key stakeholders regarding their need during the event. And I have Thank God I kind of staff on the fluffier side for instances like this. You have clients who, but they're not event planners, first of all, and they have this big vision for their event. And sometimes, even if it's a wedding, they have all these little things, like little elements that they want to incorporate. And sometimes they don't remember everything during the meeting you're having with them, saying, give me everything that you bought for the event. Let us see what we need to put together, glue together, all the things. And Brianna, you know this very well. Sometimes on the day of, they say, oh, I forgot I had this box of tchotchke things that I want put out. And it takes people to execute that because the bride is busy being the bride in that moment. So as much as you can, get all the detailed elements of the event. Start from walking up to the space. What do they want to see? What do they have? What are the things that they've bought to exemplify what their brand looks like, or what the look and feel of the event is that they want to display to the attendees, and walk through the space with them, because it's in walking the space they say, okay, I want a sign at the entrance, like an easel with our picture, or some kind of pop-up banner with a registration table. When you walk in, I want to have a table with a signature drink, and I want somebody to be greeting them and handing out the drink. And then as they go in, I want the servers to be passing the hors d'oeuvres, or maybe have it displayed, but have somebody behind the counter or behind the table to help people navigate through the displayed hors d'oeuvres. And as you're going through, you're thinking, okay, so we need a greeter, so we need a signature drink server, so we need servers to pass the hors d'oeuvres, or somebody to man the buffet. And as you're going through, you're realizing during that first hour of the event how much staff you need to have present in the front of the space. Then you get to the dining room area, and I typically do one server per 25 guests. That's like the rule of thumb. And it typically works well. And same thing for the bar. I think it's like 1 per 50. Don't quote me on that. But if you're having a dinner for 200 people, I want to have at least 3 people behind the bar to make sure the line is going smoothly, and maybe have some of the things pre-mixed. So you're pouring in a glass, add it, shake it, go, and have like a conveyor belt type situation, so that it flows smoothly and there's no bottleneck. But get the vision from the stakeholders and find out exactly what they need so that you can be prepared. So that's tip number 1. Get detailed information from key stakeholders regarding the need. Tip number 2, writing out each desired role or title or function along with a detailed description of what they'll be responsible for. And that's what I do, just to make sure that I'm well staffed, and that will help me choose the right person for the position. Over time, I'm able to do this in my mind because I've done so many events. But in the past, I would write it down. I want, let's say, like I did an Asian theme party a few years ago, and I wanted to make sure that the greeter was dressed in the Asian garb, and she was able to do her hair in a bun and stick the chopsticks and be able to embody the bowing and all the things, just to kind of, I don't know, have the theme be like an immersive experience. Now, you can't put someone in that position who is shy, who isn't aware of how the Asian culture does greetings. So you want to get somebody, even if they have to watch a YouTube video to figure it out, you want them to be able to embody it. When they come in, bow and the greeting, and to talk about the signature drink, you can't put somebody in that greeter role if they're shy or an introvert. You want somebody with a big, bold, welcoming personality who's able to say, the signature drink this evening is a lychee teeny, and it's made with lychee liqueur, and so on and so on and so on and so on. If you have somebody who is not confident, they're going to stumble over their words, and then the whole greeting experience is going to fall flat. So write out the expectations of each person in their role, and then now you can assign the right person to that role. Number three, calculate the amount of staff needed for each area. So my rule of thumb again for uh, servers is 1 for 25. For bartender, I want to say if you're doing 200 people, you need three. And then in the kitchen, you definitely need a kitchen manager who's going to oversee the big picture. Then you have people replenishing the chafing dishes and doing the executing of getting the food from the pots into the chafing dishes or pulling them, and food runners based on how big the buffet is, if we have a couple around the spaces, if it's double sided, who's monitoring the buffet, who's running the food from the kitchen to the buffet, who's cleaning the buffet, all the things. Calculate. So now here's a rule of thumb that that HR analysis company came up with. Calculate how many staff members you would need if only 25% of your attendees showed up. Then calculate how many staff members you would need if 75% of the attendees showed up. And then you would hire the median number of people and consider having a few on call. So I think that's not a bad way to do it. Because even if you have them RSVP, there's some people who still may not show up for whatever reason. A flat tire or somebody got sick. There's always last minute reasons why people don't show up to your event. And depending on the kind of event it is, you can expect more or less people to show up. If it's an event where they had to pay a ticket to come, then most people will show up because they've invested money to pay to attend your event. If it's a free event, you may get a little bit less because they're not that emotionally invested in showing up unless once they arrive, they're going to meet some famous celebrity, maybe get some one-on-one time, or maybe get more free things. It's just the nature of people. All right. So with that in mind, you can decide whether you're going to hire the 25% based on if it's a free event, or 75% if 75% of the guests show up, which is pretty common in a paid event. All right. And then you do the average of those, and then that's the staffing number that you hire. I always err on the side of caution and add a little floof to the staffing because I won't, well, depending on the budget of the client, let's just start there. Depending on the budget of the client. If the client has room, then I can be in my full planner role and be able to look and see what's happening in the, like a eagle's view of the event. If the client's budget is kind of lean, then sometimes I may be doing things, actually working in the event and not having the overview consistently, which thank God I have the experience. I've had to do that a few times. But the best thing to do is have the planner be able to get the bird's eye view and then hire staffing and then place staff based on their capabilities. If you know someone is physically business-like and they've been in kitchens before and they understand the speed and the intensity of what can happen in the kitchen, then make them the kitchen manager. If they have a bubbly, conversational kind of personality, maybe a little bit irreverent based on the kind of event, they would be a good fit for the bar because they can joke with the clients. Clients enjoy that, or attendees enjoy that, and they can joke around and kind of add to the atmosphere. If you have somebody who's a little bit more reserved, but they're logical, they can navigate people through the buffet and say, well, this one has nuts and this one has strawberries if you're allergic, and be able to be in their head and logically guide the people through. If you also have somebody who's a promoter personality, there's a party always going on in their head, and they would be a good greeter person. And if you keep the same staff and you get to know them, you can discern who is a good fit where. And once you do that, place them there. Now, the staff that I work with, I can tell who they are because I've worked with them, and I keep the same staff and I pay them well, and I take care of them. And I make sure that we stay in constant communication throughout the event. So if I need to say, I want you to leave the buffet and go clear some tables and bring the stuff to, I can move people around and they willingly go, and they're courteous to me, to the attendees, and they get things done. And if I want them to do extra or stay extra, they do so, no problem. And that brings me to my fourth tip, is to treat your staff well. If the client doesn't have a budget for staff meals or isn't willing to, then I buy food for the staff and make sure that they get a break and they have time to eat. I did I think it was a 50th birthday party a few weeks ago, and I included staff meals, and she didn't bat an eye because it makes sense to treat the staff well. There are some clients, like I did a wedding last April. Was it last April? I think it was 2023. Yes. And she just didn't want to buy, she didn't want to have food for the staff, didn't want the staff to be seated at any point. For this 10-hour span of time, she wanted them to be standing, and I absolutely didn't have that. I made sure that they got breaks and they had food and drinks and all the things. So my key priority in staffing is to all those 4 elements and just make sure that they're taken care of, because an unhappy staff treats the attendees bad, and then it spoils the guest experience, and there's going to be complaints, and then there's going to be bad reviews online, and that's not going to help my business. So I take care of them and they take care of me. Now, all this managing of staff and figuring out staffing levels and who's the right fit for what the right position is a lot. If you have to manage your wedding or your meeting or your conference and manage the staffing as well, that could be a lot, and something may fall between the cracks. And that's where I come in. If you're on Instagram, the link is in the bio. If you're on YouTube, the link is in the description of this live. It goes to my website. Click on the packages tab. It takes you to the My Pro event package. This is my hashtag hire it done for you. You tell me about your event, your wedding, who's coming, what's important, what elements you want to see, the look and feel, and how much money you have to execute that. I take that, create the budget, mash it all together, getting the right vendors, the right kind of staff, or the right position, so that your brand is not only represented well, it's elevated because of the presentation and service of the staff. If you need more information on that, click the link, let's talk about it. Or you can email me at info@myproeventplanners. All right. Details, myproeventplanners.com. Let's connect. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow when we'll tackle another event planning mistake and its solution. Take